Hello everyone, welcome to yet another interesting topic. Today we're going to talk about living paycheck to paycheck. I'm sure many people have experienced this. At least if it hasn't happened to you, you know someone who is experiencing it, and it's a harsh reality. You can't imagine the stress, that financial insecurity, that feeling of being trapped can be overwhelming. This issue affects so many people across so many classes, across so many races, across so many different income levels globally. In the US alone, in 2023, a survey by Payroll Corp shows that at least 78% of Americans were living paycheck to paycheck. While in Africa, in my continent, 2023, a survey done showed that at least 60% of African households were living in the same situation, the same cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. And worse still, 70% of these adults in Africa lack some formal saving account. That basically means that they're not doing any savings at all. What happens in an emergency? God forbid. But of course, emergencies do happen every now and then. So imagine that stress, that financial uncertainty, when just one unexpected expense is going to throw you off balance. Today, you're driving to work. Tomorrow, the car is broken down, but you don't have that $300 to fix the car. You fall ill. You're admitted in hospital, and you have to spend about a month in hospital. How are you going to survive? That's an emergency. Do you have anything to fall back on? This is something that doesn't happen to just the low-income earners. That happens to the middle-income class as well. But it also happens to the rich. But normally, what separates the wealthy, super rich, the middle income, and the poor, it's not majorly how much they earn, but how many more days they're able to survive. How many more days they're able to survive without salary. How they're able to manage their financial journey. So it is very important that you learn to manage this aspect of living paycheck to paycheck, which I think is a reality most people face. And there are several factors that would contribute to a reason why you could find yourself in that rat race, in that cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. The first thing is insufficient income to cover your basic expenses. That basically means that your expenses are more than your income, or they are close to equal to your income. Basically means that at the end of the month, you are finding yourself with little or nothing that is remaining, or you're finding yourself that you have to borrow. And this could be probably because you have very high costs. You're living in a very expensive place, and some people, it's not like they plan it that way. You find that probably you're spending so much on transportation, you're spending so much on housing, you're spending so much on food, you're spending so much on healthcare. So you find yourself that you can't catch up. Everything is you're trying to struggle. You're struggling to keep up with all these expenses, and it's a situation that many people, especially who are born in cities, living in cities, they were born in cities, they have grown up in cities, they're aging in cities. They don't have any other form of income. Unlike the people who can live on a subsistence income, like they're doing some bit of agriculture, and they also have formal jobs. But for someone who's born in a city like Abidjan, it is going to be a hard thing to cope with if you don't have any income of sort. Then what makes it worse is people go ahead and get high interest debt. Like you're struggling to meet those expenses at the end of the month. Then what you do, you go and get a payday loan, a very high interest loan. So you find yourself that on top of a little income, now you have to service a loan. And usually by the time you're finishing off that loan, if it's a 1 month loan, you're already in short of, and then you have to take another one. The cycle keeps on. And you never create any wealth for a long run. So I'm not saying that debt is bad. There are many people who use debt to grow. The rich people use debt to grow. The investors, the entrepreneurs use debt to grow. Debt will come in so many different ways, but most of the times that they are not using debt to consume. But if you're using debt to consume, to take care of your monthly expenses, your day-to-day expenses, then you're going to find yourself in a situation where you are short of what you need to survive. But you're not only short of what you need to survive, but you find yourself in the same cycle week after week, after month after month. What do you do about this? One other reason that I want to add on to this is lack of financial planning. Because you have not planned, sometimes you're not thinking about the last days of the month. We have this situation, I've heard about the story so many times. Around the 2050, people get paid salary. Their behavior changes. They're eating very fancy places. They're driving their few guzzlers. They're housing their friends. Housing is like you take out your friends and give them something to eat, something to drink. But when you clock into the second month, the first month of the second week, or first week of the month, second week, you're going to find that the lifestyle changes. Now they cut back. The car which they were driving 7 days a week, probably now they're driving it 3 days a week. The places where they used to go and eat, now they're avoiding those places. They're avoiding certain company to make sure that they try and they have sufficient income to take them up to the end of the month. But by the end of the month, they're struggling. They're asking someone to help them out. The car is already parked. Maybe it is spending a full week without even being driven. But as soon as they get paid, they get back to the same cycle. That's lack of lack of financial planning. You're not thinking about what happens in the last days of the month. What happens? How are you going to survive? If you're spending this much right now, how are you going to survive? And for me, that takes me to the first solution of why I think people live paycheck to paycheck and they're struggling throughout: financial discipline. That is lack of financial discipline. Because some people could even have a plan, they could even have a budget, but they're not implementing this budget. They are spending based on impulses. Because you are out with your friends, you need to feel good, you need to show that you also have some income. Then what happens at the end of the month? You're struggling. So probably if you don't have a budget, create one. Track your income, know where your money is going. How much are you spending on transportation? How much are you spending on food? How much are you spending on rent? Of that proportion of income, what is likely to stay? What's likely to remain? Such as probably do some investment with it. Have that habit of being financially disciplined, but also the budget. Try inculcate into you that idea, recording your expenditures every now and then to make sure that you're able to track your expenses. I remember with this aspect of financial discipline, when I just started work, we had colleagues, and by the end of the month, people were struggling. If they extended payday by more than 2 days, people were crying. I used to work for a person who never paid salaries over the weekend or days before the weekend because of certain cultures. But so such a situation, people were struggling. But for me on my end, by the time they're paying salary, I was just beginning to consume last month's salary. So I was doing well, but because I was a bit frugal, I was trying to save as much as I could. And somewhere along the way, you don't ask me right now if I'm still doing it. Well, I still budget, I still plan for my expenses, but I don't have an entire month worth of savings. I have savings stuck out there, but not free cash lying around so that I'm going to use, have an extra full month of cash lying around to use in case things go bad. But if things go berserk, I know where to get the money from. Just withdraw from some of my savings and then take care of what I need to take care of right now. So being financially disciplined, having a budget, tracking your income is a very important thing that will help you a long way. And you need to, while you have a budget, you're able to prioritize which expenditures to take care of. You really need to go out and drink every day of the week, maybe once in a week, 2 times in a week. You can go and do that. You really need to eat from that fancy place that where most of your friends eat from. Well, where you're living, how much are you paying rent? You need to pay that much rent, or you could survive in another place where you're paying a little bit less rent compared to what you're paying right now. So those are the things that you need to think about and prioritize what you really need to spend on versus what you can really put away. And of course, if you have managed to cut out some of the unnecessary expenditures, you then could think about beginning to save, beginning to put aside money into an emergency fund. And usually it is advised that you should have at least 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. Funds able to cover 3 to 6 months of expenses as a safety net. So if you have such a thing in place, it basically means that if something happens, you're able to take care of the life emergencies. But then also prioritize paying off high interest rate. Actually, if you are thinking about saving, doing an emergency fund, as soon as you reach your target, make sure you also cover the debt. Other people would think that, would actually say that don't even think of saving before you cover the debt. But it's also good to have something put aside. Make sure that if something bad happens, again, you're not borrowing more. You can take care of this, but you have a fund aside. So if you're able to cut out high interest debt, then you probably are going to manage. You're going to take care of that rat race, that cycle. You're going to punch some holes into that cycle, such that it seems to be a lot of pressure on you. Then, of course, you can also do other things like increase your income, do some side hustles, probably negotiate for a pay raise. That requires very serious strategies. Many people try and negotiate for a pay raise, but it's not an easy thing to do. But a side hustle is something that you can do. And normally for me, what I think about is if you're doing a side hustle, it shouldn't be something very far away from your main job. because that's where you are skilled. That's where you spend most of your days, your time. So it should be something that could bring in some income. Maybe you have some side business somewhere, and you have a relative taking care of it, a friend taking care of it. That's able to give you some extra income. I know there are people who used to survive on transport, rent, on their side hustles. So just giving them enough money to take care of all those things, and they're saving the rest of the money. It's a good thing to think about. And then of course avoid what we call the lifestyle creep. What do I mean by this? If your salary increases, so you change the shoe, you change the house, you change the car, simply because you have had an increment in salary. Your expenditure is increasing simply because you have new money coming in. Like what I did talk about, you have just been paid, but now you begin thinking about, I need to drive, I need to eat in a fancy place. Yeah, you need to pay yourself, but I think if you can delay, you can delay gratification for some things. Probably it would put you off in a better place than where you are right now. Then it's important to stay frugal. Even when the financial situation improves, it's important that at least you stick to the principles that have brought you to where you are at that point in time. If you're out of that financial struggle, that paycheck to paycheck, living paycheck to paycheck, then you still need to continue. Otherwise, you're going to lapse back and get back into the same situation you are in 2 years ago, where you are struggling, you're living paycheck to paycheck. So it's important that you stay frugal. Then what I can say to conclude is that living paycheck is tough, but it's not something that I can say that is permanent. Things change. Today you are not doing well, tomorrow you're doing well. But don't forget the times when you were not doing well and what you did to get out of that situation. It's important to acknowledge reality. Some people fail to accept that they're struggling, and they feel like they're going to make it better sooner or later. But the reality is they're not going to make it better anytime soon. They're not going to get out of the situation they are in anytime soon. So what is required? You acknowledge that I'm in a problem, I have a problem. What are the reasons why I'm here? And what are some of the practical solutions that I can apply to such a situation so I can get out of this situation that I'm in? So you can be able to take control of your financial future. This acknowledgement is very key. Then of course, I did talk about side hustle, but what I've realized is that producing something is something that creates value, either for the people who are using that product or who are using that service. Producing could be a service, it could be a product. But whenever you produce something, you're creating value. Whenever you're creating value, you're going to be paid for that value that you have created, as long as it is something that is needed. So if you're able to produce something, then probably you're going to create additional income from what you are producing. And that is going to help you get financially independent. So building your wealth through production doesn't only diversify your income, but also offers you long-term growth potential. I mean, there's a huge potential that, since you're a producer, you're not a consumer, you're doing something that some people need. It's going to create a lot of value in your life, but also value in other people's life. And when they pay for that value, that potential for long-term growth is there. And with, of course, talking about all this, with discipline, the right strategies in place, I'm sure you can break that cycle of paycheck to paycheck and start building a brighter future and a better future for yourself and for your family. Thank you for listening to me today. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I hope you have found it useful. And let's catch up next time. If you haven't subscribed, please make sure that you subscribe and share the video with a friend and family so they can also benefit from the good things that we're sharing here. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.